By working alongside the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, donors can make more possible, right here at home. The Community Foundation's expert team connects individuals to organizations that make a difference on issues of concern for Middle Tennesseans and connect donors to a network of like-minded contributors invested in the community. This holiday season, make more possible through the power of community giving. Learn more at cfmt.org.
We back, baby. Season 3. Me and DP. You see how that rhyme?
Yeah, I like that.
We getting into music, so I'm gotta.
What are we gonna do for season 4?
I don't know.
Listen to more.
Take it to the full. I don't know. Well, we back. Welcome. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jerome Moore, and I got my amazing other co-host, my co-pilot, DPR.
How's it going, Jerome?
It's going good, man.
Welcome back, season 3, episode 1.
We made a fire promo. I know. It was amazing.
Yeah, that went.
You smell good and look good today too. Splendiferous.
You too, buddy. Yeah, I had a lot of people asking me about Splendiferous. Cool. Yeah, welcome back, season 3. Today we have a special guest, longtime music editor of the Nashville scene, good pal, Stephen Trageser, a.k.a. Goose.
Hello.
Hello, Goose.
What's
Thank you
going
for
on,
joining
Goose?
us.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
I got to introduce you as Goose because I'm definitely going to call you Goose throughout this, and I want people to be like, excuse me. So, Stephen Goose Trageser. Thanks for joining us, man.
Oh, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for putting together our annual Year in Music issue. We've been doing this one for a long time now.
Yeah, at least 12 years, a little bit longer, I think.
Yeah.
12, 14.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's got a lot of moving pieces in it. Tell us, well, first of all, I got a copy here. This is Brittany Howard on the cover.
Yes,
Put
indeed.
out a great record this year. Our contributor, Hannah Cron, spoke to her. Very cool. Tell us about some other stuff that's in the episode, or excuse me, in the issue.
Well, we've got a nice long-form interview with Medium Build, with Nick Carpenter is his name, and who's been kind of blowing up this year. We have We have the rock and roll poll, which is reaching out to people in the out in the scene doing stuff, not just in genres that conveniently rhyme with pole. And we've got some looks at kind of movement in different genres. We've got kind of a look back at the year in hip hop, the year in rock, the year in country. And also looking back at, some folks who have passed away this year and, what's going on in venue world, and the top local albums critics poll. Kind of a mouthful, but, just sort of a kind of top 10 thing that we do.
Where we compile our critics' favorites of the year and sort of tabulate those, right?
Yes, indeed.
Cool. Really enjoy all the reporting that goes into it. We have a lot of contributors that are in the mix there, staffers, freelancers. The venue news is always interesting, especially given the past couple of years with local venue closures and expansion of, more corporate-backed venues and that kind of thing. So that's a interesting piece of reporting we got in there too. So we're going to go through our top local albums critics poll or our top locally based artists critics poll.
Yeah.
I think Jerome has...
So look.
Yeah.
This might be a little spicy, but it ain't meant to be spicy, right? And so,
That's fair.
we all know I'm a Nashville native, right? And so when I read the, Year in Music 2024, the top local albums critics poll, I look at it, I go through it, I say, this doesn't seem local to me. When I think local, I'm thinking independent, born and raised Nashville. And so when Goose came into the studio, and me and Goose have talked about like music and hip hop in general here in Nashville and had a local conversation. So I'm really excited about this topic in general and really thinking about like, okay, when I look at this list and I look at some of these names, they don't scream out like, oh, local, Nashville native, which it's become a distinguished thing now, right? Since the growth of the city, gentrification, people just come here for different things, right? We put emphasis on like, oh, you're from here, you're a unicorn, right? And I don't see no unicorns on here, Goose. But so I just thought it would be a great like topic to address, like, what does it mean when you think about like, okay, local albums, right? Because I think about like the Chuck Indigos, the G-Slab, 6-1 Tribe, the Quest Quintrails, the Mike Flaw, those are what I think about. And like when I look at this list, I don't think it's representative of local Nashville music personally.
Well, that's a fair criticism. I mean, it's something that sort of the methodology in the poll, something that we have done, that I have done, is make it a thing where if at least one person who's part of a group lives here full time, we'll claim them as local. I mean, that's how the Jesus Lizard made this list. The rock band famously from Chicago and Austin, Texas, and. I mean, it's absolutely a fair criticism to say it's like, you know what, does the Jesus Lizard really need our help? Does a Jack White need our help? I mean, not that anybody in particular needs our help, but that's probably a poorly chosen phrase. But in terms of like who we give space to and who we give time to, it's like to quote a former music editor, Nashville music is like a fire hose of information constantly, and we're just trying to pull from all of it, which definitely includes people who, as you rightly point out, are more locally based than local. But that does pose a problem, and we got to make sure that we're showing support for the people who have that different kind of experience because they grew up here, because they have been putting stuff into building the scene since they were kids practically.
Right. And like DP had I just draw the line. I'm very Nashville biased as we know.
Yeah.
And like DP was like, well, what if they moved here when they was 22, 23? They're not they're not. It doesn't count.
I think Jerome wants it to be the top 10 local artists who were born at Baptist Hospital.
But yes, you had to be born at Baptist Hospital. But and to me, and we talked about it. Before the cameras got rolling, I think because of like the growth, and I think a lot of Nashville natives that are here feel like they're getting lost in the sauce. I think for me, it's like very important to be very intentional when we think about local, to think about it from that lens. Mm-hmm. And everybody on the list is great artists. They're deserving to be on the list. I'm just a critic of the critics poll. Yeah, that's all. But just from a very, very, very biased Nashville native lens. Yeah. But I think it's important for the whole city to I think look at that approach and say like, what does local mean, and like how are we incorporating like locally born and raised individuals into like the new industry movement that is happening in various like industries throughout the city.
Mm-hmm. Very much. It's something where there is so much homegrown talent that and there is just
it's like
there's so much going on.
Yeah, it's like when I ain't gonna say no big artist names, right? But it's like when I see like bigger artists that are leveraging the Nashville brand, right? And like I know like you're not from here. You came here. You used it and ran with it. And it's like, man, I know there's equally talented and gifted people that are from here that for whatever reason we don't give that same appreciation to or attention to. And that just like that irks me. It's like great for your success, but like the guy down the street that I know is like, we need to be intentional about pumping him or her up in the same light, especially if they just as gifted and talented.
Yeah. Absolutely. Some of the artists you name, we do mention in the issue and do get into. Some of them didn't put out records this year,
right?
Which obviously going to take them off the board. But most of what we got here, it's folks that not everything, but recorded here using local musicians, that sort of thing. But fair point, certainly not a list of people who were born here.
Yeah, 100% not.
So look, like if you watching this in the comments, like what does it mean? Like when you look at like local albums, is it born and raised here, or is it
made here?
Yeah, or is it made here? Yeah. Are you locally based? Mm-hmm. And where I stand, you gotta be born and raised here, and like totally. That's local to me.
Yeah.
And it's important just because of the growth of the city, I think.
Yeah, I like it that over the years it's included a pretty diverse sort of array of different genres. People who are here for a long time, people who've relocated here, people who've sort of changed the industry here or evolved with the industry here. But Goose, you want to get into it and go down the list? TRL style, 10 to 1.
Sure, let's
go
dating
for it. Myself. TRL people are probably not going to know what that is, but
fair enough.
So number 10 is local. It's fair to call them a punk band, the Slovenes. Yeah,
very much. It's it's some kind of local rock and roll lifers backing up a gentleman named Steph Murphy who did come here from Ireland, and it's very much old school punk kind of in the, kind of like amped up rock and roll, really sort of in the vein of like The Damned, The Ramones, Stiff Little Fingers.
Little Clash in there, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much. And it's poetic and heartfelt kind of songs about the things that you need to get through life in a world that's not very friendly.
Yeah.
And so it's a great listen.
Yeah. And the number 9 spot, Katie Pruitt, Mantras. I actually wrote our blurb on that one. That's a record that kind of surprised me with how much I liked it. Sort of Americana, Heartland rock, kind of, country, alt country, you could call it. Not usually the kind of stuff that lands at the top of my list, but it just ended up being probably my favorite local record of the year. Katie, I believe, moved here to go to Belmont. And maybe from Georgia, I want to say.
That's correct.
Atlanta area.
Atlanta.
And
Your favorite?
what's
Your
that?
favorite record, baby?
I mean, I put it in the number 1 slot. I really,
Wow.
because I listened to it a lot all year. And I think the reason it connected with me so much, even more than enjoying the music of it, is the message of it. She was raised in a pretty Christian home, as was I. She is a queer artist, and a lot of it's about sort of like reckoning with identity and family and upbringing and the push and pull of that. Really confessional record. You feel like you're like listening to somebody's diary.
Yeah.
I think that's why I liked it as much as I did. Yeah, felt really personal.
Yeah, it's a beautiful record.
Cool.
Well, kind of jumping down another spot, we've got Ohio Players by the Black Keys.
Yeah.
They've been here for about 15 years at this point as well. if
Yeah,
it sounds
I
right.
think I wrote a cover story on those guys. I interviewed them when they moved down. I want to say that was 2009 or 10, maybe 10. Yeah, 10 sounds about right. 12th record, and one of many that they've made since being here. Of course, got some cameos on that one. You got Noel Gallagher and Beck, right?
Indeed,
and Juicy J.
and Juicy J.
Yeah.
Juicy J from 3-6.
Okay, so you got some Tennessee there.
That's what Tennessee. Look, hey, look.
Does Memphis count?
They was here 15 years. You know what? They're not local.
I mean, they did put Ohio in the album title.
Yeah, they did.
Indeed.
Ohio Players.
Yep. Go ahead.
Well, the next one is really a cool one because it's a lot different than a lot of what we got on the record, or excuse me, on the list. Rich Ruth, Water Still Flows. Tell me a little bit about Rich Ruth.
So Rich is actually is his middle name. He goes by Mikey most of the time. He's an instrumentalist who's in like a lot of different bands. He's in this big kind of soul band called Kansas Bible Company. He also plays guitar on tour a lot for a Kentucky singer-songwriter S.G. Goodman, who's around here a lot. I have made the mistake of saying she's in Nashville, and she lives in Murray, Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
But it's like, no, but she's here all the time anyway. But anyway, yeah, this is an instrumental record where he's pulling a lot of stuff in from ambient electronic music to Southeast Asian gamelan to jazz and even like some doom metal and things like that, and just some really beautiful, thoughtful stuff that's super interesting. It's kind of, this is his third record of this kind of material. He sort of had a breakthrough in 2022 and is just kind of carrying on from there.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I know William Tyler's made the list before, so it's not the first instrumental record we've had in the top 10, but it's one of very few, right? That doesn't happen a whole lot. So
not that often.
Yeah. Number 6, now we got our cover gal, Brittany Howard, who folks, of course, remember from the Alabama Shakes, is this her sophomore solo record?
That is correct.
Put out Jamie a couple of years ago. And really cool record, kind of a step in a more experimental direction, I would say, right?
Yeah, just it feels like it's called What Now, and it sort of amps up kind of going even further into some of the different genre material that she was exploring before, different kind of traditions. I mean, there's even some house music in it, and it's just for one, she's one of the best live performers I have ever seen, and kind of she got into a little bit talking with Hannah for our cover interview about like some of her like how she's bringing some of those production techniques into the studio, like doing dub mix, like live dub mixing as she's doing vocals and things like that. Yeah, and comes out awesome.
Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee transforms thoughtful generosity into lasting positive change, connecting donors with nonprofits to build a thriving, inclusive Nashville. As a trusted partner and convener, CFMT helps caring residents make a meaningful impact today and for generations to come.
Learn more at cfmt.org.
Here's the controversial one, the Jesus Lizard. Jesus
Yes.
Lizard, very, very influential punk band, been around a long time. Dwayne Dennison, the guitar player, has lived here for a while. I mean, he's
at least 20 years, I think.
yeah, he's kind of held down Nashville and the rock scene and for a long time. Of course, Jesus Lizard, a lot of people don't identify them with Nashville though, which is fair to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
But record is very powerful.
Yeah, they're I think it's their first record since the 90s. They kind of were broken up from about 1999 to I think 2009. They actually, I guess maybe this had something to do with Dwayne living here. They played their first gig back at Exit In and actually released that as a live album in 2009. And then this is their first studio record in ages, and from contributor PJ Kinzer, who kind of wrote up our blurb on it, was just like, it's exactly what you would hope for. It's these guys are in their 50s and 60s, and they're playing like they are not going to need icy hot later.
That's awesome. Really powerful live band. That 2009 Exit In show was sort of the stuff of legend among local rockers.
You was there?
I was,
Wow.
2009. Yeah, I was like, it's 15 years ago. Oh my God, yes, I was there. But I'm not old. I was 10 years old when I was there.
Pardon me. While I puff up dust.
Rap Ferreira and Fumitake Tamura, the first to make contact when we dap. Very cool rap record. Tell us a little bit about that one. That's at number 4.
Yeah, so Rap Ferreira is he's a very, kind of nomadic, world-traveled guy who, kind of put some roots down here. He, in his previous home base, had kind of a sort of hip-hop community center, like a record store and stuff called Soul Folks, which he created a new iteration of here actually not too long before. He recorded some of the vocals, I think, for this record in the store. However, he recently announced that he's had to close it. Sounds like some conflicts with his landlord, unfortunately. But this record is just absolutely it's an example of some of the many strengths that local hip hop has. I mean, just some incredible wordsmithing.
Yeah. He's a rapper's rapper.
Very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
He's and just doing kind of everything you could ever want language to do.
Yeah.
And it's his. Fumitake Tamura is someone that he met in Japan, and they struck up a friendship, and he Takamura made him some beats that he worked with that are also really the phrase that I came up with trying to figure out how to talk about it was like, it's like a record collection is listening to you. It's like there's very much this kind of like soft breathing kind of thing. It's very subtle stuff, but it's it's just the backbone for some incredible bars.
Yeah, and that's cool that one made it to number 4 on the list.
Yeah.
And then we got Styrofoam Winos, who local rock band. This is at number 3. They've got 3 songwriters in the band. Like all of them write songs, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, they've been kind of playing on each other's records and releasing their own stuff for well over a decade at this point. I believe they are also folks who came here to go to school and then stayed and kind of worked their way into the local scene. But yeah, it's the 3 songwriters are Lou Turner, Trevor Nickrent, and Joe Kinkle, and they. A lot of people kind of compare them to Yola Tango. Lou and Trevor are a married couple, and it's their friend who plays with them. But they're all incredible songwriters on their own and have their own awesome records. This is their second record, kind of as a unit. But yeah, just kind of very tied to a lot of local, underground folk and rock art music.
I've heard some Silver Jews comparisons as well, sort of the David Berman shades in there.
Very much.
Which, again, another sort of iconic Nashville rock guy. Number
true.
2, Sierra Farrell, Trail of Flowers. This Sierra Farrell's had a pretty huge year, right?
Yes, indeed. I mean, she's just the past several years have just been kind of a whirlwind for her. Like she, another person who is very widely traveled. She, I think, came here from the Pacific Northwest, but she grew up in West Virginia. At one point in her career, she was a busker, if I understand right, and just very much has those kinds of storytelling skills that she like you sort of stop seeing and hearing her and you start seeing and hearing the characters in the songs, which a lot of really awesome performers pull through. And, just there's so much, she actually, when this was released, she was headlining the second of 2 nights at the Ryman.
Wow.
Which, just a couple years ago, the previous record that she'd put out, she was like, I think her release show was maybe at the Basement or the Basement East. Yeah. But, it's just been kind of on a long climb, and she's, I think, one of the folks who is opening for some of Post Malone's next run of stadium dates.
Yeah, and I think she played like the main stage at Newport this year,
correct.
Which is pretty big deal, especially if you're in the folk, country, Americana world, to have that big of a stage. Yeah,
most definitely, and also was, if I remember correctly, Artist of the Year at the Americana Awards.
Wow,
there you go. Yeah,
taking off.
Yeah,
most definitely,
big year. And then it's the number one. The one that got our number one spot, Jack White No Name.
Yes, indeed.
Surprise release, yeah?
Yeah, just like he just put a label on some copies that said No Name and just had people slipping them in the bags of whoever was shopping at the Third Man stores on the day that he wanted it to come out. And it's in a year when we've kind of seen a lot of stories about, these bigger productions and concert tours and kind of stuff really struggling because of all of for a ton of different factors. A lot of it related to ticket pricing and dealing with all that sort of stuff. He and people having to cancel tours and things because they weren't able to make it work. He just very much went small and kind of, I think the first show behind this record was this benefit at the American Legion Post 82 to help raise money for their new PA and that kind of stuff. And then,
I mean, that's an extremely small room. This is a guy who's headlined Bridgestone Arena before, and then he's playing, I don't know what capacity is at American Legion, but it's in the couple of hundreds maybe, not 18,000 or whatever Bridgestone Arena is. Yeah.
Most definitely. Yeah. But then just comes out with, he's kind of, it's a kind of a nice bookend to the Slevines because, he's kind of going back to basics rock and roll after a long time of more experimental stuff that, in some cases didn't work all that well. But the guy keeps trying, and he's come back with something that people are really loving.
Definitely
including our critics.
Connects with a lot of the longtime rock fans that have followed him for a while through, and he's always kind of experimented with country and different sounds, but getting back to that sort of raw sound that people knew him for in the early days. Yeah.
Are there, hey Goose, are there any records or artists that was just on the outside of that top 10 that that you like? They were just like, that was close. They maybe, a few votes off that was close to making that list.
Oh, there's always. Let's see. This time, some of those folks were G Slab. Actually, his Expect to Win was one of the ones that was very close. Eric Slick, fellow who plays drums for Dr. Dog, his solo work, new album called New Age Rage.
I put that one on my list.
There.
I really like that record a lot.
Yeah,
it has like kind of David Byrne vibes to it sometimes, which.
A little bit, indeed.
Yeah.
Kind of, and very much inspired by, sort of, what am I thinking of? Kind of like post Nile Rodgers sort of pop, which was big in Philadelphia where he grew up. That's something that I think is kind of cool in some ways. It's like with folks coming in, they're sort of bringing their thing into a Nashville thing, which more or less. Integration, like it's like if we're gonna have folks coming in, trying to find ways to sort of blend different things and to, but there's there's lots of steps.
Yeah, and I think that's like a different conversation too. Like as far as like the sound of a city.
Sure.
It's like you have some cities that have a very distinctive sound. Like this is their sound, but Nashville seems to have like a variety of those things.
True.
And I don't know if does that hurt or does that help us? like when you, as far as from an identity standpoint, like we know like country music is the umbrella as far as of the music genre, but beyond that, I wonder if it's like not having a true identity that's like, this is the Nashville sound. Like, does that, or do we have that? And maybe it is like just eclectic.
Well, I think there are a couple of things that are kind of some hallmarks, I guess. And what's cool is like seeing people build a sound, like something that, you know, we've talked about in the past is like, you know, especially in like the hip hop and R&B world, like, you know, rappers playing with live bands and things like that. Like, a lot of people sort of identify that as something that is, I mean, it's not exclusive to Nashville for sure, but is something that, you know, how locals are trying to help develop a sound. Right. And then some people also like, you know, appreciate that there is not some specific template almost set up that you have to kind of meet in order to make it. Right. But that still opens up the question, like, what can you do to make it? Right. You know, and that's
what do venues want to have and to bring in artists in. Yeah, okay.
And something that I have appreciated kind of seeing this year is, you know, some more energy building, especially around like R&B and hip hop. We're definitely not to the level of like, you know, local indie rock in 2012 where it was like every weekend there were 4 bands playing at, you know, at exit in and 4 bands at the end, and, you know, what or something like that. It's been nice to see some of that growth energy. There's just got to be a lot more. Yeah. And that's, you know, and that's on people from above opening stuff up as well, you know, as much as it is anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I appreciate this, Goose, man.
Cool. Yeah, well, it's a pleasure talking with you guys.
Goose, it was a heroic, Herculean amount of work to put in there. Huge issue. A lot of moving pieces, so thanks for organizing for us and keeping your eyes on sort of all these different scenes in town. I'm always learning something new every time.
Yeah, I learned a whole bunch of new stuff. Just
well, yeah, I mean, and it's something that, you know, I definitely I appreciate the kudos, but I mean, so much of it is pitches that writers bring to me, and you know, and people reaching out on their own. I mean, it's music@nashvillescene.com. That email address comes straight to me, and I get a lot of great stuff from all kinds of people through there.
You want to break your record?
Hit me up.
Email Goose.
Music@nashvillescene.com. Please do. Not editor@nashvillescene.com. That's me. Music@nashvillescene.com. Well, Goose, thank you for being on with us. Thanks for chatting it out. Thanks for talking about local versus locally based, which is honestly, it's a really interesting conversation. I'm glad that Jerome brought it up.
It is.
And for running through the top 10 with us. Sure. Check it out, nashvillescene.com, to see and read more about this year in music.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Season 3. First episode.
We're back.
We back.
Goes.
All right.
We back with Goose.
Thanks, y'all.
Like and subscribe, share, all that good stuff.
Like and subscribe.
Thanks, guys.